A lot of guys will get in somewhat of a decent shape at least once in their lifetime prior to their 30s. Usually though, it's not going to be through some kind of perfect diet and well thought out workout plan. Rather, it's going to be mostly by being consistent with simple rules when it comes, for example, to nutrition, eating relatively clean, keeping the rest of the more fun stuff in moderation. And when it comes to training, it's going to be probably being consistent enough with a decent workout plan, or sometimes even a pretty mediocre one, since consistency, especially when you're young, can go a long way when it comes to training. So why is it then when you follow these same habits after 30, you see very little, if any, change at all? If these are all things that are puzzling you, then keep watching, since today I'll be sharing with you the exact solution that I found as an average guy in my late 30s after having a family and working a full-time job. By the way, if you're new here, don't forget to download Bodyweight first, our free guide, which is how I got my best results in the beginning, link below. Now, the classic villain behind all this in the past used to be our metabolism. Recent research, though, has concluded that this doesn't really start to change until you hit 60. So why is it then that this doesn't feel to be the case? And most of us feel that our metabolism works like shit, especially the further away we get from 30. The answer here is simple, since even if we get back to our older nutritional and workout habits that once worked, what we're neglecting is how the rest of our life has completely changed. For example, chances are that in your 20s you had less than half the responsibilities you now have. You probably got 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep on most nights. You had a way higher step count without even realizing it, just by goofing around, doing more sports. And even if you had any stress at all, you managed it a lot better simply by having more free time, unwinding with friends and doing things that you enjoyed, which you probably don't have a lot of time for nowadays. So as easy as it is to ignore all these seemingly small details, the difference they make when it comes to building muscle, burning fat, and recovering is night and day. And sure, I'm not saying that having youth on your side doesn't make a difference at all. You do still get a small boost from that, but it's a lot smaller than most people make it to be. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't build a badass and impressive physique anymore, whether you're in your 30s or 40s. It just means that moderate diets and average workout plans won't cut it anymore. Instead, you'll need to train both smart and hard for at least 3 to 4 hours per week. And until you put on a decent amount of muscle on your frame and lose all the extra fat, you'll have to be super strict with your diet in order to counterbalance all those other seemingly small little things that you're missing from your youth. Just to be clear here, I'm not saying that you have to look like a bodybuilder in order to have a better metabolism. Neither do you have to spend half of your time at the gym. Personally, I don't even have a gym membership, but you do want to build a decent amount of muscle mass if you want a metabolism that feels as fine-tuned as it was in your 20s. So before we get into how you do all that without spending hours training every single day, let me first quickly explain the importance of strength and muscle. Muscle is the number one tissue on your body that speed up your metabolism like nothing else. Not to mention how every year after 30 that you don't strength train, you're losing about 1% of that, which only speeds up with age. So, if you feel that your metabolism has slowed down in your early 30s, just wait to see how it feels as you get closer to 40 and 50. And I also want to mention here that, a lot of people might tell you that, okay, that's kind of true, but a pound of muscle only burns a few extra calories at the rest, which is true, but it's just a tiny part of a way bigger picture. Here's what I mean. For starters, when you learn how to strength train properly, you also learn how to train really, really hard, since you can't build muscle unless you're training close to failure. That's just a fact. And when your body has to recover from such hard work. It requires, first of all, way more energy than living a sedentary lifestyle, or even if you go for a jog every now and then. Next, prioritizing strength also requires consuming more protein on a daily basis, which is not only the most fulfilling of the 3 macronutrients, but also the one that costs your body more energy to break down, several times more than fats and carbs. So in summary, the stronger you get, the more energy your body burns to train it, feed it, but also help it recover. For example, after getting in my best shape at 41 naturally, I'm at a point where I actually need more than 3,000 calories to just maintain my weight and muscle, which is a pretty huge energy balance that allows me all kinds of luxuries, whether I want to go eat at my favorite restaurant on a weekly basis, whether I want to eat plenty of carbs for dinner, or whether I want to enjoy a glass or 2 of good wine once in a while with my friends. I'm not saying that I get to pig out every day, and there's still a very well thought out strategy on how I eat and how I make more room for extra calories. But I definitely am at a point where unless I'm on a cut, I can basically enjoy everything in moderation pretty similarly as I did in my 20s without worrying about getting fat. In summary, the main point I want to get to here is that moderation isn't a starting point if you're over 30 and you want to make any kind of serious change. Rather, it's a place you want to get to, something you want to earn after investing a serious amount of time and effort on training hard in order to build muscle and following a strict diet that aids that process. All right, so we covered all the theory so far, which is why the real question now is, how do we put all of this into practice? As I already said, you first of all want to set aside 3 to 4 hours for strength training a week, which is pretty realistic for most guys, as long, of course, as you set your priorities right. But the problem that arises here is that taking into account all the extra time that you need to prep your bag, commute to the gym, find a parking spot, wait in line for the popular machines and benches and all that, maybe make small talk in the locker room, and all that in reverse is probably going to cost you, if not double the time, at least 1.5 the time that you needed in the first place. So 3 to 4 hours can start looking more like 5 to 6 to 7 hours, which is an amount of time that most guys, most busy guys, at least with a family, full-time job, stuff like that, will not have. And, I totally get that, which is why you need to figure out a way to make the strength training as frictionless as it gets. And in my experience, especially after having twins, nothing beats calisthenics. By the way, I'm not talking about those acrobatic, skill-oriented calisthenics with the muscle ups, the flags, and stuff like that. What I'm talking about here is old school, traditional bodyweight training focused at getting you stronger. Because once you have a plan like that in place, you have a setup at home that allows you to train as frictionless as possible in a matter of seconds, and you get your diet in order, your metabolism can start to hum like it did in your 20s before you know it. So make sure you get yourself a proper workout plan like that. You can always download Bodyweight First, our free guide, which you can click on the link below to download. And as long as you have a basement, a front yard, or a home office like mine here, all you really need to get started is a pull-up bar, a pair of gymnastic rings, a dip station, and maybe later on a pair of adjustable dumbbells if you want to start spicing things up. That was all for today. Make sure that you watch this video over here for more information on how to do all this more efficiently. If you need help with both diet and training, and you feel that you could benefit from the extra accountability and clarity that a coach can offer, this is what we do here at Bodyweight Muscle. You can always fill in our one-on-one coaching form below, and I'll be getting back to you within a day. And until next time, keep on training.